CIOs are not willing to fail. The number one responsibility and role of a CIO is development of your team. If a person doesn't leave you better than when they came to you, you failed as a CIO.
What is one practice that instantly builds trust with a team?
I want every CIO listening right now to have the career of their dreams.
Too many CIOs think the next big platform, AI rollout, or Salesforce upgrade will make them indispensable. But here's the truth. You can't out-tech your way out of a leadership gap. And in 2025, that gap doesn't just slow progress, it kills careers. So leadership gaps cost credibility with the board, stall promotions, and can quietly sideline a CIO from the strategic table. According to Gartner, 70% of AI initiatives stall adoption. And from what I've seen, most of this is not about tech. It's about influence, trust, and the ability to lead change. Today, I'm with Joe Woodruff, leadership coach, speaker, acting CIO, and co-founder of CIO Mastermind. He's worked with hundreds of tech leaders who's felt isolation, overextended, and stuck, and helped them turn influence, impact, and the career that actually changes and makes a difference. So if your AI or Salesforce initiatives are stalling, if your team engagement is flat, or you feel like your voice is being drowned out in the boardrooms, this conversation is your wake-up call and playbook. Let's get into it. Joe, thank you so much for joining.
Man, I'm excited. I couldn't have said that better. Way to go, Mike.
Thank you so much. So Joe, you have coached and taught and worked with hundreds of CIOs. Take me back to the moment that you realized that leadership and not technology was the defining skill for tech executives.
Oh, I think there were two great moments there. When I co-founded CIO Mastermind, we immediately implemented peer advisory groups. So I meet with 10 to 12 CIOs in a group setting each week. And consistently, the issues were more about their own leadership development and strategic thinking, business acumen, and alignment, more so than technology deep dives. On one hand, not surprised because I've been working with leaders for 35, almost 40 years. On the other hand, quite surprised because I thought they were going to look forward to going all tech with each other, and that was not the case. And then secondly, working and thinking particularly of a CIO who just was not getting the seat at the table, even functionally maybe, but the voice was not being heard. And so he brought me alongside to help him hone his voice, and that led to several other leadership development dynamics.
What have you seen change in the past 6 to 12 months with the rise of AI and the imperative of having to implement this new way of doing business into organizations?
Yeah, it's wave number 2. So what I mean by that is COVID became a massive wave of C-suite leaders turning to CIOs and initiating conversations, wanting their input. That was an elevation moment for CIOs. AI is now also doing that. There's so much noise that CEOs and other C-suite officers are turning to the CIO and saying, what are we going to do? And the primary role right now for CIOs is to be able to cut through the noise and actually have that leadership moment and influence of helping the company think, and then match the AI opportunity to the strategy in front of them.
So you previously said that isolation is one of the most dangerous things a CIO can face. What does isolation look like in real life, and how does it quietly derail projects?
Isolation in the sense of many CIOs just don't have peers they can relate to at an in-depth level, both from the sense of receiving unbiased feedback and advice, as well as being able to open up themselves about the questions that they have and the things they're still trying to solve and figure out. So they certainly don't have it within their company. They don't necessarily feel comfortable when there's a number of different tech leaders, such as the CTOs and CISOs especially, which is why it does come out in the peer advisory groups that we offer, especially when we're on the wave of technology such as AI. isolation, trying to figure it out on their own is a killer. We've got to be learning from each other, even as we're learning.
Can you share with me a story of someone that you have worked with where maybe it was during COVID or during these more recent years, where they went from really being isolated, not having anyone to talk to really something that was an outcome that you would like to point to as this is what good looks like?
Absolutely. I'm coaching a leader who approached me because he was at a crossroads, really trying to figure out if the company he was with was going to allow for innovation and the technology he knew was needed for the business value and the transformation. In the course of our engagement, we actually discovered that the business was asking more of him and his team than had been communicated. The outcome of that, it was an overnight shift in his ability to now work alongside the C-suite and aggressively push forward, particularly in AI. So he's helping them right now to cut through the noise, establish the right cases, and begin, of course, the right development.
So I read recently, Gartner says 70% of AI initiatives stall at adoption. From your vantage point, how much of this is a leadership problem?
Oh, it's all leadership.
Can you expand on that?
Much of what I work with CIOs when I'm involved in coaching them is the art of influence, the art of persuasion, and alongside helping others define what the preferred state really is, and then leading them from the current state to the preferred state. It is so much a leadership issue. The stall is not in our lack of education. It's not even in premature jumps because most CIOs know how to iterate at this point in time. It's truly helping the business not panic, not presume, and to be able to bring an intelligent and clear path forward.
Can you give me a tactical advice? Maybe someone who tried presenting information in a certain way, then you were able to help them reframe and to come back with more of a business lens on how this is going to achieve a business outcome, and then what that led to.
Yes, there was a company I am working with who software spend, subscription spend is enormous, and they know that it's going to be redundant. There's waste. And the man hours involved in discovering that is immense. We were able to come alongside and help them understand the value of AI agency. And now they are in the final phase of research, having established the use case and defined it well to get the buy-in and sign off for the funding. So as a result, they're going to save rough estimate of 30 to 40% of their current subscription rate. And then they'll be able to take the AI innovation towards other use cases within the company.
You said that influence is a multiplier for every technology investment. Can you help me unpack that?
Yes. I like to talk about how we create environment and not just living things. So a lot of CIOs get frustrated because companies want XYZ, and so they give them XYZ. But the problem is the environment for that technological implementation was not established. So just starting something is unsustainable. So environment first, and then the program, the living thing. So influence is all about establishing the environment in which you're developing innovation. So obviously, we as CIOs need to understand business value. That's premium number one. But as a result of understanding business value, we're now able to bring education and influence into the priority, the use cases, or the major areas of development where we're going to be able to see technology not only meet that particular need, but now we've created an environment in which we're able to accelerate and maximize further development.
Can you share with me some practical steps that a CIO can use to grow influence with their team, their peers, and also with the board or the executive team?
Absolutely. A matter of fact, I am wrapping up a book called Align and soon to be released, probably released within September. And the whole premise of that book is how we align ourselves as leaders, align our team, and then align IT to the business. So, a number of practical steps there. And let me start with ourselves. The first is much of the work I do with CIOs, even if they didn't intend for it at the beginning, is a realignment of their self. As they understand where the business is going and where they need to take the business, are they in the place where that is equal to their own identity within their capacity and a part of the leader that they themselves want to be? Because the moment that we're not leading out of our true self, and many are not, right? We lead out of the expected self. We run into frustration. That's why CIO turnover is too high, and we've got to lengthen the investment. So the first practical step is for leaders to preferably work with a coach or someone who is helping them to make sure they're aligned in their identity and capacity. But secondly, many teams are simply left uninformed. As a matter of fact, the number one complaint of those I work with on an IT team is that all they're getting is what they're hearing from the CIO or from the manager, and they're not hearing really from the business. And so the second practical thing is there has to be much more and clearer communication from business level to IT and the team itself. What that fosters that the CIO is then able to leverage and maximize is an understanding of their fit and understanding what they're trying to accomplish. And frankly, there's some really smart people on the team that can raise a really good question before it's too late and perhaps make some adjustment in the direction of where things are going. And the third practical idea for the CIO is business value is number one. And understanding the market and understanding the customer is priority one, and understanding how the business is gaining value through their interactions with the customer is key. On the one hand, it is true that every company is a technology company. On the other hand, that's not what they're selling, right? So if it's an insurance company, people are buying insurance. If it's a manufacturing company, people are buying the services involved in the manufacturing. So we have to understand how to leverage and make both the cost savings and the profit. And that's really the goal. How do we make IT a profit center? It's not just that we don't want to be a cost center, we have to actually be a profit center.
So if we look at what's happening in business today, the rise of AI, the rise of agentic AI, the rise forcing companies to rethink what they do well and where technology can help to automate and to take some of the day-to-day monotonous tasks off of our hands. How does a CIO help to guide from a leadership role the human side of what makes the business valuable? Because it's not just what you deliver, it's the people that you are enabling to drive that organization forward. And I feel like there's a lot of confusion right now as to what the role of the human side of technology is. And I would love your thoughts on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I am loving my own experience with AI. And admittedly, the way I use it is saving me hours and hours of labor or thousands of dollars I would rely on for someone else to provide me the same information. So on the one hand, will there be a loss of roles or tasks? Yes. And loss of employee, admittedly. However, I also do believe that we can train those same employees in either other roles or use of AI within that same role. So I'm a huge proponent. I'm not a fearmonger in that realm. I work with young people who are coming to the market. Many of them are fear-based because of the difficulty in finding jobs right now, but some simple retooling is enhancing their value. So everything I do is from the human element, Mike. It's why I'm in business in the first place. I want to draw out the best of everyone. I want every CIO listening right now to have the career of their dreams. I want that to be their passion for their team. So I'm actually human first and technology second. I just see the power in which technology is able to bring out the best in the human because it's doing it for me. And if it can do it for me, then I know I can help it do it for someone else.
Thank you for that. So let me ask you this. Some companies are trying to protect the organization from any implementation of unauthorized tools. Think back to the mobile world where if you did not have an authorized mobile device, you could not connect to the network, you could not connect to emails. It was very much a walled garden. And then you had the rise of bring your own device where employees were either using two devices or companies were saying, well, instead of us issuing a device ourselves, why don't we just create an MDM or mobile device management where we can have a safe place on the phone and have the ability to control what is and is not available and take that more of a hybrid approach. With AI, do you see companies leaning more towards wanting to have complete control over every single instance and iteration of AI that exists in the company? Or do you see companies being more flexible, saying, we want to trust you as our employee. We want to trust you as part of our team to make decisions that will bring in technology to help you do your job better, and then to share that with the team so we can. What are you seeing from CIOs you work with on where most are landing?
Yeah, most are not landing on high control, though they are educating on what happens. Don't do this, right? Don't push the red button. That message is out there. There are so many strides made every single day on the security side that most companies are leaning towards the right government frameworks and the right boundaries in which the employees are to work. The third thing that we're seeing more and more of, and it's not premature, early in its maturity, is localized AI for companies. So that which you're working on is not getting outside of the corporate environment. You raised the right question. It's the immediate concerns. I've seen our CIOs working aggressively on it for maybe the past 2 to 3 years. And it's probably the number one misplaced question of non-IT professionals when they're raising concerns about AI. Our CIOs are on it, the CISOs are on it, and they're really learning how to teach and train more than anything else. Probably the number one issue they run into is employers are willing to use AI, just actually don't know how to use it. And so the training movement is really finding speed right now.
And something else I'm seeing is just because you can use AI doesn't mean you should. And it's really, I think, turning on the lights for a lot of companies of showcasing there's a lack of understanding of process. There's a showcasing of the data they have as not reliable or it is dirty at best, that there's other systemic issues that are coming to light when exploring the idea of implementing AI in part of the technology stack. What are you seeing? Is this something that is common, or do you see companies just really adopting AI and just going full force and not taking into account those fundamentals?
No one's adopting full force without taking those fundamentals into account. So again, we're human first, and we don't want AI to do what we can do. We want AI to do what we can't do within the time and money. So the headlines are out there about the dirty, and I think we're learning our lessons on what you need to check, where's the human verification of it, and so forth. But most companies are seeing AI as the partnership. And so how do we partner? And as even in human partnership, there's check and balances along the way.
So if we look at partnerships, I believe it was last week announced, they're going to be implementing 4 deployed engineers for large projects. I think the DoD was one, other government, large organizations, the minimum contract was $10 million to even start this conversation of having these individuals sit inside the business and implement AI. How do you see the consulting world shifting from a traditional time and materials where the Bains, McKinseys, IBMs, and even the niche consultings that are tied to platforms like Salesforce? How do you think that industry is shifting? And what do you think CIOs are really looking for? Are they looking for bodies to come in, or are they looking for results?
No, they're looking for results. As a matter of fact, in a recent group, one of our members cited the costs that they ran into with AI and AI consultants and so forth. We all just laughed. It was insane. It was unreasonable. You see people out there trying to take advantage in the early stages of a movement, and it's just ridiculous and frankly unethical, especially because I work with AI specialists who aren't charging anywhere near that. I mean, they're quite fair. And I'm fairly well tied into some of the big boys of AI, so I know what's going on there. Again, I simply think that the consultant world, we should always have been outcome-based, certainly more than time and material. And now we just have the AI component that is a part of it. So I don't want to be incomplete in my answer, but are we surprised that there might be some cost estimates out there that seem unreal? There are greedy people in the industry. But I know those tied into the big boys who are really just trying to do their best of helping companies get a handle on it. It's fairly priced. I'm not afraid of the AI consultant coming in. I, as a consultant, come in, and again, AI is my partnership. So I'm working on proposals that simply make sure the outcomes are going to be delivered. The benefit is I'm usually able to do it in a shorter time frame than usual.
Do you think that the divide between those individuals who come in and are really good at their jobs leveraging AI are going to capture more market share versus maybe that middle ground where they're almost the grunts just doing the typical work who are not really needed anymore? Or do you think there's still a need for individuals to come onto projects and to truly understand more of the traditional management consulting approach?
You've got to understand the traditional management approach so that you can then break the rules and accelerate it with the AI expertise. So that's what I'm experiencing. Obviously, I'm older. So I've been around, I've come up through the various seasons of management and consultation and so forth. I love AI. We are helping companies achieve the outcomes that they've wanted, and we're able to do it faster and with greater revenue generation and cost savings. It's beautiful.
What I'm seeing is the new generation of people coming out of whether it's university or even coming right into the workforce who are more AI native, who just don't know any different. So they're just willing to try and to push the limits and bring in different models and think creatively are a windfall for companies if they're willing to adopt and to mentor those individuals to be contributing team members. And I think those who have years of experience, who have the battle wounds of having gone through several failed projects or successful initiatives, can leverage AI because we can almost smell when it doesn't look right or there's something that doesn't line up. And that's something that takes experience that is not learned through a book, but it's done through a lot of trials and errors and hard learnings and sometimes decades of work to really appreciate this looks 80% right, but these parts here are really off. And so we can't present this because it's not reliable. How do individuals who are looking to become CIOs or move into this next phase in their career, how do they get those hard-won lessons when the model's changed of partnering up with senior leadership because the expectations are that you can do more with less, therefore we don't need as many people on the team?
Let me give you two responses. One is I was just smiling when you talked about sniffing out something isn't right, especially over the last 18 months or so. I could tell when someone sent me an AI generated content or message, and it offended me because it wasn't supposed to be that. So I knew they were just trying to do some shortcuts. So yes, those of us with some seasoning experience can usually sniff it out. I would reverse the flow of your question if because I'm human first. the number one responsibility and role of a CIO is development of your team. So to me, if a person doesn't leave you better than when they came to you, you failed as a CIO. I don't care what else you got done. For those coming in, right, it goes to the heart of how do we develop our team. So my answer to your question is, if I'm coming into that environment, I have very little control of how much I can quickly gain some seasoning and experience. I'm dependent on joining a company that is passionate about my development. So for the incoming, don't take a job where you're simply filling a role. Take a job where you're filling a future. And CIOs listening to us right now, Mike, I plead to have the mindset of you're not hiring for a role, you're hiring someone who's going to be there and you're going to invest in for their future and for the future of the company.
I think that's such an apt way of looking at it. One of the consulting companies I joined took a different approach of not just hiring computer scientists or those who had more traditional IT background, that looked at those who were really curious and who were approaching problems from a perspective of thinking outside the box. And it ended up being a really masterful way of doing it because you had a room where you had traditional skill sets, and then you had someone who's coming in bringing something that really forced people to think through their preconceptions on why things could or could not work. And I think that's really powerful. And I'm wondering, what have you seen? Is that something that has come up in your conversations?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We can train on the skills. I was just talking with a dear friend of mine yesterday. He's a retired VP of Microsoft back in the day, right? So he reported to Bill Gates. And I was describing to him a young man who's about to return to country and back into the workforce in the US and has a master's in industrial engineering, can code, does code, is upskilling himself in machine learning, et cetera. But as I described this individual to my friend, he said, my favorite hires were the engineers who thought differently, working with my development team. And we may have gotten to the same end no matter what, but they helped us to think better along the way. And that, to me, is the core of the answer, what you just brought up, Mike. Hey, I love those who've gone the traditional route of getting themselves equipped. Let's not shut them out. And let's open ourselves up to those who we know we can train, but they bring the right mentality and character to the table. That's what it's all about.
I love that answer. So from the patterns you've seen across the CIO mastermind, what will define the most successful CIOs in the next 3 years?
Again, I'm going to go with three things here. Definitely aware and oriented around business value. The ability to influence through clearer voice, more persuasive conversation and content. And in that same vein, a greater ability to come alongside a resistant executive and win them over. And then the third piece is understanding AI regardless of the headlines and beginning to build in the strategy towards it. Our hands are forced in that. I'm working with one CIO. His company has really just drawn a hard line against AI and innovation. They're an old established company. They want to keep doing things the way they've done it. He and I regretfully chuckle because we know the market will not allow that to happen. Get with it or die.
Let me ask you this. Some of the most successful companies have been born out of failure, whether it's project failure, it's having to iterate multiple times to get to the market. Do you find that CIOs are celebrating and enabling their teams to fail, or do you think that there's still hesitancy on the part of employees to not make a mistake because if they do, they could get fired or penalized?
I think that is such a great question, Mike. Here's what I consistently run up against. CIOs are willing for their team to fail. CIOs are not willing to fail. So the CIOs have to answer into the C-suite. And most CIOs are aware of what it takes to get things done, and they are far more gracious and libertine with their team than they themselves get to work with. So it's a tension. It's like, I can't fail, but I need my team to fail in order for us to succeed. And many of my CIOs are found justifying the work of the team or the time and length of the project. And you can tell you, Mike, how long have we been talking about setting expectations and that better project management? And there's still this disconnect between business expectation, IT delivery, and gosh, the leaders I work with are so frustrated with that.
I was reading a story once where I believe it was the captain on a Navy ship on an aircraft carrier actually set the leadership example by getting in front of the group and highlighting his failures and showing what he tried and what did not work and the lesson from it. And what that did, it allowed the team and those who were the senior enlisted or the officers on the ship to realize that there was safety in sharing and there was actually danger in not trying. And I'm wondering if CIOs were to do that, would it be something that the leadership and the other executive levels would encourage, or do you think it would be looked down upon in this world that if you're not trying and breaking things as a company, you will not succeed? What are you seeing?
Yes, absolutely, man. I love that story. There's power and authority in our own vulnerability. Again, I believe that our CIOs are caught in that tension. But if we're giving intentional development to our team, then part of that is the sharing of our own failure and how we came back from that. The one thing I see missing, Mike, in that posture is we often hear, hey, I failed, and here's what I did to overcome that. But we don't push it down a little harder to some of the deeper introspection that needed to happen, which is what some of our own team members need as well. Not that we're psychologists or trained counselors, but actually behind most failure is some area of personal deficiency. I don't want to say character, that might be misread, but there's a personal deficiency. We had to do some hard introspection in order to get the right correction. Again, it goes to environment before living things. If I don't have the internal and inner environment, then I can try something new to fix what I did, and I'm just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So
I'm just thinking about how, from a leader's point of view, or from a employee's point of view, rather, if they were to see a leader who not only described the technology or the challenge or the problem that they had from a business point of view, but also kind of the internal reasoning behind it, that could create such a deeper level of trust and authenticity in a world where perception is really the currency of the land. And if someone were to come up and say, I made this decision, this is what happened, and this is why I made this decision, and this is kind of the root of where this all came from, within reason, I think could be a really powerful place to really allow employees to put more heart and more of themselves into the business, because it's deeper than just a paycheck. And I think in this world of AI, where a lot of tasks are being dehumanized, those companies that can almost take the exact opposite approach of putting the heart back into the business, of leading with that level of rare authenticity, are going to be able to do miraculous things, because the team, the organization, will be able to do so much more as a cohesive group that is true than one that is just made up of individuals. What are your thoughts?
well, I mean, I'm applauding you again. And again, we remember we are technologists. We forget that we are human. As CIOs, we often forget that we are teaching people how to be human. And many of the issues that I run into with CIOs in their work with the team, whether there's some dysfunction there or some fear, secrecy, trying to cover up, is all because we're keeping our focus on the business and we're not teaching that very person how to be human. And so, yes, I applaud what you just said. It's very much a core of the coaching that I bring to leaders or the work I do with their teams.
So before we let people know how they can reach out to you, let's just do a quick lightning round. So just top of your.
Certainly.
So what's one leadership pitfall every CIO should avoid?
Assumption.
Okay. What is one practice that instantly builds trust with a team?
Regular and intentional encouragement.
Okay, I like that. What's one book or resource that shaped your leadership?
I hesitated. There's so much there. Okay, let me think about that. Think Again by Hans.
One question you wish CIOs would ask themselves more often.
Why?
In one sentence, what is your definition of a career well led?
Every person at my funeral is crying because they're the ones I invested in and made a difference in.
I love that. Joe, we have covered so much. And I think to summarize, we've really talked to the heart of technology, the humanness, the need to have authenticity. How can people learn more about you or reach out to you?
My email address, Joe, at CIOmastermind.com. You can also reach us through that website, CIOmastermind.com.
Fantastic. Joe, any final parting words?
I believe in you who are listening and watching this right now. If I didn't, I'd go do something else. This is not a job for me. It's passion.
Oh, Joe, I want to say thank you once again for joining Heartbeat. And I really look forward to hearing more and learning more about what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed this deep dive? Hit like or drop a comment with your biggest Salesforce challenge and subscribe for more tactical insights. Know a CIO who has a story worth sharing? Tag